As soon as this thing comes on, I'll
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Last time I was a bit quiet, so I'm going to get in really tight this time.
Get in there.
Really close.
Let's see.
Or maybe up my volume a little bit.
Let me get in there.
I think we are live.
It's funny that there's an advertisement for me to get in. Yes, we are live.
We're live.
We're live.
Are you guys ready?
How do I show the chat?
Can you turn the volume down so we don't have to hear ourselves and echo?
Yeah. I can't see the chat. That's the whole point of coming on here. Live chat. There it is.
We want to be able to read your comments. So
thank you for the clarification.
So did you turn yourself down a little bit?
How do I sound? It says, you are live, but it may be quiet because of the England match. I think that's a joke. So you guys, can you tell me if I'm maxing out? Audio test.
I think I would turn you down a little bit.
How do I sound, chaps? When I see you two, I always think, what a charming young lady. And hello, honky tonks. How are you? Good evening. Sounds fine, they say.
Good. Okay.
Sounds
fine.
Well,
let's get started. So, hi, guys. I feel like I'm maxing out.
You are maxing out in personality and smile.
Okay. Is that better? I just feel a bit too loud.
Okay, so hello, I'm Felipe.
I'm Lillian.
And welcome to the Postmod Pod episode
6.
It's been 6 episodes. And we are here to make sense of current events. Thank you for the live crowd that has joined us on YouTube. We will be taking questions and comments at all times during this stream.
And if you want, you should probably read out the comment that you're replying to if you are engaging, right?
I don't know what that means.
For our podcast listeners.
Oh, yes. Oh, this is the repeat the question for the listeners.
Yes, exactly.
Good evening. It's a tough choice, Scotland football or joining your live stream, says Sans C.
Football.
Well, with a name like Sans C, I'm not surprised. Okay, so here we go. Time for the long coveted icebreaker.
Okay.
What is your most used emoji?
My most used emoji is the red heart.
The red heart.
Yes. How about you?
Let's hear from the commenters. What does that say about Lillian if the red heart is the most
and
used?
I usually use 3
emoji.
3
For me,
red hearts.
The most used emoji is the laughing face, but not the straight horizontal laughing face,
crooked
but
one.
the diagonal laughing face.
You don't use them in combination, or you use just 3 crooked ones?
I use, depending on my mood, I'll use 4 or 5 or 6 or sometimes like 15 in a row.
Wow.
Oops, there's my coffee. Are you going to visit
one of those?
Okay. Just one of them.
Yeah, and usually the normal one. And then if I use 2, I use the straight and then the crooked, like that. I'll alternate usually.
Yes. Okay.
Or 3 in a row.
Someone wants to know, are we going to visit the Wendy's in Reading soon?
Yes. Do you guys want to meet up there?
Definitely. Do you want to have a meetup there at the Wendy's?
At Wendy's.
For the 32 of you that are live right now.
Yeah, I would do it. When are we next available?
Well, I don't know. But anyway, so why don't we get started? I think it's your turn to go first.
All right. Well,
I only 3 stories.
I think I only uploaded 2, so or maybe only 1.
Lame.
Okay, that's all right. I'll just make things up on the fly, or we'll just come back to me later if we have more to talk about. But so, just in case you guys didn't know, we're the Postmodern Family. Yes. We're Americans. We live in the UK. We comment on society and current events.
Oh, you're right. Uh-huh.
And what I don't know what I was going to say after that, because I feel like I've been really interrupted. Just like interjections of like, oh yeah, okay. That's Felipe over there just reacting to your comments. Okay, what was I going to say? We normally do reaction videos on our channel here, on the Postmodern Family channel. However, I have that itch to talk about current events and talk with my husband, Felipe, about these things and get his pick his brain on it. And so we decided to do this podcast, and we are trying to just branch it off. Eventually, we will have all our live streams on the Postmod Pod channel. So find that. Postmod Pod is a new YouTube channel that we're trying to put all of our podcasts on there. And then obviously you can find us on podcasts, iTunes and stuff like that.
And Spotify.
But yeah, we do 3 stories each usually, and I only had time to sort out one so far. And we just talk about it. So typically it's on Twitter. So if you're not on Twitter, you can get on there
for the comedy.
And you can find us. I'm Postmodern Mum, and you can find me there and engage.
And I'm there as Postmodern Fam.
So the first and only story I have here is the arrest of a pastor in Canada. So there have been several pastors that have been fined and arrested in Canada for continuing to meet for church, or maybe refusing to follow the rules of masks and social distancing and things like that. So this one, somehow he was called in to report exactly the arrest. So he was there, he has footage, and we're going to play it for you now. I'm going to turn the volume up here.
This is the best part where we put a phone to
Adam Sos here for Rebel News, and I'm outside of the home of Pastor Tim Stevens.
Outside.
Pastor Tim was once again taken into custody. Numerous police vehicles arrived and put him in a car, taking him away from his families. It was an extremely emotional and harrowing ordeal, and we were there to capture it as it happened. I'm going to let you go now to the footage of his arrest.
Okay, and then you got that gathering on June the 6th.
You had that gathering on.
So that's what you're under arrest for.
Can you back that up? It's maxing
too loud.
out. Yeah.
Any avenues for you guys
He's
to
wearing like
question orders or
Can you lower the volume?
that have told us that have told you guys that we
Let me know if it gets too hot or whatever.
Bye, Daddy!
they're crying. Look at the kids. That's kind of traumatic.
Other jurisdiction is in prison with pastors.
Again, I'm not going to speak to that, okay?
In Canada.
Okay.
Only
I would
Alberta.
say continue the course that you're continuing on. Push further ahead, push harder if you need to, and that's all
How
I
much
can tell you.
harder can we push here?
I don't know how far
Will
you've
you
gotten.
arrest me and take me away from them too?
I have no reason to arrest you, right? So I'm going to leave it at that, okay?
Bye, Daddy!
Hi, guys.
Can you guys just talk?
okay?
Say bye.
Not too close, not too close.
Okay, guys, step back, please.
Can you guys share maybe why Jason Kenney gets a free pass and you're arresting pastors across the province? Any comment, any emotion for this family whatsoever? No, you're just going to drive off just like that. Is this why you became a police officer?
All right, so that was Rebel News. I have mixed feelings about what happened here. My first impression is the fact that he was called ahead of time to film this arrest, and then they have all the
Who's
kids
he? You
out.
mean the interviewer?
This guy from Rebel News,
Right.
and that I think his name is Adam Sos, and then all the kids were out there like just crying and not being consoled.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a bit of a show. Did you have that feel?
It did seem a bit staged.
Yeah.
Or at least, if not staged, because the kids have a hard time staging. So I think it was choreographed.
Yeah.
It was a
I'm
bit
not saying that
choreographed.
they were being told to cry. I'm saying that I almost feel like they were being exploited in their emotional display.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it's right to arrest a pastor. And it seems like he's very compliant and really, what's the point? What I guess the point is that they're sending a signal to the police and the government, whoever ordered this arrest. They're sending a signal out that this is what's going to happen if you continue down this path. Okay. So what is it exactly that he did? Do you know?
It sounds like...
It says Pastor Tim Stevens arrested on new charges. Full story. So he's been arrested before? It says arrested on new charges. Okay, after underground church services. So he's arrested again. This is the second time. Pastor Tim Stevens was arrested on Monday afternoon on new charges after Fairview Baptist Church gathered for underground worship for the second weekend in a row since their church was effectively seized by Alberta Health Services last Saturday. Alberta authorities were forced to drop other charges against Pastor Tim last month after discovering that Alberta Health Services never served Pastor Stevens with the court order he was accused of having violated a requirement under the order. That effectively ended the case against Pastor Tim, but he will now be facing another legal battle. On Tuesday, Rebel News reported Pastor Tim will be held in prison until June the 28th due to his refusal to sign bail conditions that would limit his ability to gather with his congregants. So he refused to sign for bail because he knew that he would be gathering.
Okay.
And he was up front, it sounds like, with that. And so therefore, they're like, no. Over the weekend, an ever-growing crowd gathered at an undisclosed location for services and shared the word, sang songs of praise, and heard Pastor Tim preach. As the worship progressed, a police helicopter discovered the gathered congregation. It's unclear if they were actually searching or if it simply happened upon it, but as the helicopter was significantly north of the location of worship and continued towards the city, it wasn't until several minutes later that the helicopter returned and completed repeated passes overhead. Minutes later, police vehicles were seen circling the location. They were never removed from worship or made arrests, but it sounds like then they pinpointed the date in the beginning where he says, you're being arrested for gathering on June the 6th. And it seems like that's when they decided, okay, it's time to take action again.
Okay.
So what are his charges? Does it say? That it doesn't even say. It just says here that for meeting in this underground church.
Okay.
Because his other one, his building was seized.
Right.
So that's it. Like that's
the story.
That's the story, but I just don't get why that's criminal and you get sent to prison for it.
I don't know Canadian law. I think during the first lockdown in England, it was forbidden to meet in churches, but subsequent lockdowns, it was permitted under certain conditions.
So then let's say that continued on here where they didn't permit meeting, and then some rogue pastor decided to meet.
Yeah.
You think it would also happen that he would be arrested for this?
Probably, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they did descend in Wales on a couple of services that were not compliant to the services. They descended on a Catholic mass in London and shut it down. That was not compliant to the conditions, so it's not out of the pale. Beyond the pale here.
I guess now we're looking back a little bit in hindsight, okay? So before in the very beginning when these things were being locked down, right in the very beginning, there was a bit of an unknown whether or not the virus was very deadly, etc. But now it seems like based on the numbers, the mortality rate is extremely low. Like up to 5% for 80 plus. And then like under 70, it's like 0.1% or something, 1% maybe. So the mortality rate is extremely low for this virus. Do you think then now, because this just happened last
in Canada,
week, do you think it's completely unwarranted now, and it's just reaching some sort of totalitarian state where they're trying to get rid of Christianity?
You're asking, are they targeting Christians?
Yes. What are they doing? I just don't understand it. Can you explain it to me? Can you make sense of this current event for me, please?
No, I mean, all it is governments in the West have decided to establish and test their credibilities as entities that rule on their ability to enforce COVID regulations. So in general terms, so as an example, when the American Republic won its independence from the United Kingdom, there was a group of rebel farmers in New England that were unhappy about the tax on whiskey, and they rebelled, and it was called the Whiskey Rebellion. And George Washington himself marched out at the head of a troop and put down the Whiskey Rebellion. Okay, and he knew that it was a test of the baby republic as to whether they could enforce the rule of law. Okay, so that was a very delicate situation where the rule of law had to be established and had to be demonstrated that these people can govern. So now the general principle is that governments must never allow their authority to be flouted. Because once that is permitted, then it's a slippery slope towards a complete rebellion. So if governments, for whatever reason I'm not commenting on, or have decided that this COVID thing needs regulations, then they cannot permit anyone to flout the regulations.
But I thought governments weren't there to make a population submit. I thought they were there to serve the people. Governments
are established, whether they're Republican governments or monarchical governments. Governments are there to rule, period. So some governments claim to acknowledge the sovereignty of the people and the sovereignty of the individual, and other governments do not. So if you go to Iran and the Ayatollahs, they don't rule on the basis of the sovereignty of the people. They rule on the basis of they know best, and they know what the people should get.
And so do Canada, people
as far
signed
as
up for that?
As far as
they know that going into it?
It's not like you're born in Iran and at the age of 7 you're asked, "Hey mate, do you want to stay in Iran and acknowledge the Ayatollah as absolute ruler or leave?" You just grow up.
I'm just thinking of in terms of, because I've been listening to the book A State of Fear by Laura Dodsworth, and she talks about the NHS. The NHS is basically an arm of the government. It's run by the government. And it used to be viewed, maybe it still is by many people, that it's supposed to be there to serve the people. They provide the services that the people want. But and now it seems to be taking another way of where it's now going to enforce upon you.
You act as though that's the given, let's say, self-evident truth of government, that government is meant to serve the people, but that's not a self-evident truth.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to point out. So, I think people don't realize that.
But it's not the only. I mean, even governments as they were depicted in Scripture. The only thing that was safeguarded and caused the Almighty to intervene in government was always ever the guarding of His worship. That was the main issue, always.
Yeah, but the government now.
So regardless of whether there was 50 assemblymen, whether they acknowledged the right of the people to govern themselves or anything, that's just all hogwash. The reality is God instituted governments so that right worship could be protected. That's the main goal.
Right.
Holiness, the right worship.
But that's not in existence anymore in Canada,
So this idea that as an extension of that principle, the Founding Fathers and the Enlightenment established that that idea of right worship comes from the idea that each individual is called to rightly obey God, and that that call or that duty cannot be infringed by anyone. And part is to be able to dispose of your property charitably to pursue your happiness. This was the extended version of after the Enlightenment of what governments were meant to do. But that's sort of a logical. It takes a logical sequence of thinking to get to that. It's not self-evident from Scripture, or it's not even self-evident from reality.
I see.
So the fact that the West has departed from Christianity significantly severs the logical sequence of steps that takes you from right worship to individual sovereignty, individual self-governance, if you will. And so in secular government, there is no moral reason why government should be for the people, by the people, and of the people. There's no moral compelling reason. So the Canadian can't raise their hand and say, wait a minute, it's a law of nature that I should have this freedom.
But it is written into the American Constitution that the government is supposed to protect.
But this is Canada, right?
I know. I'm just thinking there are governments that are based on protecting the individual liberty and freedom.
Yeah, so I don't know Canadian law. I don't know what their constitution says, etc. But
I'm sure it's handed down from the UK.
I have no idea.
Great Britain, right?
I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate. But the American Constitution certainly spells out, at least the Declaration of Independence says that individuals have the right to pursue happiness, the right to the pursuit of happiness, and that is then implemented in the Constitution through a sequence of rights that are not given by government but are indelible,
right,
and are not gifts of government,
right.
And so, on the back of that idea, then governments are established to protect those God-given rights.
So maybe we just come from
a milieu where that's the given.
Yes, but it's not the given here or in Canada, maybe? It's just not given.
I don't know Canada, okay? So I can't comment.
Well, let's say here, because I think it's very similar. I think Canada is just a little bit further ahead, but the UK is going down the same road.
See, historically, the monarch was invested with governing in a holy manner.
Right.
Okay, so they were the monarch. And then gradually with Magna Carta and subsequent development of law, it was recognized that the monarch isn't above the law, so to speak, that the monarch is held accountable to certain standards that transcend him or her. So it's an evolution from the so-called divine right of kings, which it seems like the Ayatollahs govern on the basis of they have a divine right from Allah to govern as they deem necessary. But gradually from the divine right of kings to a more constitutional monarchy that held the king accountable to certain expectations, that with the decline, the absolute total decline and decimation of royal authority, then authority resides in the commons now. And the commons is largely secular. So the commons can pass and make any law as long as they have the house, as long as they rule the commons. So there's no way the queen or subsequent monarchs are going to withhold assent. It would create a constitutional catastrophe. So the question really, what this boils down to, is on what basis do people believe they have rights, and what do they think of when they think of the term rights? Because continental Europe has a different conception of what a right is than Anglo culture. Continental Europe views right as as the privilege, or not the privilege, but the you have a right to something, to Medicare, or,
Right.
or to a paid wage.
That the government is required to provide
Whether it's the
some
government or not,
services.
society has a
Yes,
moral,
or your neighbor. Yes.
has a moral imperative to provide X.
That is very different than
That is radically different
pursuit of
than
happiness.
Yes, that I have the right to act towards my best interests.
Mm-hmm.
So, but nonetheless, so if you take the Anglo conception of rights, the question is, how do you ground that concept morally? And if you strip Christianity from the West, then you really don't have any grounding. And so what you start seeing is the unraveling of government.
Okay.
And that's what you've seen in England.
Yeah.
You have arbitrary law that's arbitrarily enforced.
Right. Yeah. And it's going down this path. And I feel like bringing it back to this story, there's a related tweet by Steve Richardson who basically said that there have been many Canadian pastors now. It says, all the men in this video have been charged repeatedly and all now face possible imprisonment. One is currently in prison. Another one was. Others have lost their buildings. And it's a video called Open Your Church. And it's a bunch of Canadian pastors just saying, you need to meet and worship.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking back to the government. I feel like that there is, like you said, I think they're just trying to assert their authority, and they're particularly targeting these pastors at this moment because they want to get them under control. They want to bring the power.
So governments in the West, now that they are unshackled from the restraint of obeying a standard that transcends them, they must fight for their survival, which means they must stamp out any rebellion against those who would flout their rule.
And it just seems
so
crazy.
I don't think it's just targeting Christians. I think it's just targeting anyone
who
goes
strays
against
from the guidelines or laws.
Goes against their rule.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just never thought I would see the day. Like, you read about these stories in the Bible where Paul is arrested for preaching and things like that, and he's in prison for preaching.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is that possible? Like, why would that be harmful? But there you go. There you have it. It's happening today.
In Canada, yeah.
And
it's happened here.
And it has happened here. And so I'm deeply concerned about the way this is going. And I don't know what the answer is. You know, I guess we just continue to pray, and we pray for them. We pray for their families. But one of the quotes that you often say is that the faith of the Christendom grows on the blood of the martyrs, or something. Like, people who stand their ground and face death, possibly. I mean, we're only talking about prison right now.
Yeah.
But those people are think about how Christianity even started. It was such a small part of the world with just a few disciples, 12 that were sent out. And then like that, and then people were killed and sent into the what is it called? Not the Colosseum, the big one, but the little ones. What are they called? They were sent into the ring to die. And, and yet all these people dying just continue to fuel this faith. And so do you think we've gotten to that point in the West where we need that refueling and people have to stand up and be bold?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if you look at the pattern of events in the Old Testament with the Israelites, where they were a small people that grew large in Egypt and then were freed by Moses, and then grew into a powerful entity, grew arrogant and rebellious, and then God scattered them. There was a reconstitution of the temple at some point, so there was a regathering, but never to the same strength as the first kingdom of Israel. And after that, they were just subject to more disintegration and more rule, and never to be reconstituted again. The New Testament church, once again, was small and made big, made to spread all over the world. And I think there will be a reckoning in the countries and in the regions like the West where there is disloyalty and rebellion. I think the global South, which is the African continent, South America, Asia, etc., where the faith is growing substantially, they're on the ascendancy. The West is on the decline, and I think it'll be like a scattering and a never reconstituting again. That's my idea. But the torch will pass, just like it passed from Jerusalem to the rest of the world. I think the West has passed the torch to the global South.
Okay.
And Christendom will go from strength to strength in the global South. But the West has grown fat and comfortable and luxurious and has bequeathed us men who, few men, just scarcely too few who are willing to stand against the tide.
And so on that note, it reminded me of the next story that is the same as yours, I think. The video of the Lockdown Ends song or whatever, the virus, whatever, with James Corden.
That's one of my stories.
Yeah, that's what I think we can move to next because I don't have the other two lined up. And that was one that I wanted to comment on. So did you want to just take over from there?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So we shall move on to my segment. Very exciting times we live in. And I think the theme of this podcast is really about what kind of men stand up against the tide. What kind of men? What is the essential characteristic? So we've talked about the arrest of Christians now, but let's go to the COVID arena, back to the COVID arena. And
well, it's related because I think it
is related, and
fat
I'll get to
West.
it. Yeah, I'll get to it. So the same thread will apply. This is a video.
Oh, hang on, something just stopped for me.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a video that stars
Ariana Grande
and what's his name?
James Corden.
James Corden. Lovely man that has come to America and done great things for her. It's a video that was released in TikTok. There was a short version, but I have found the long version. And let's just take a listen at what this video is doing. So here we go.
To have a what?
To have it out or something. Back in the gym. He's too fat to lift. Get drunk and get matching tattoos. That's normalcy. There he is. What a voice.
Bridgerton.
I don't know.
What's an NFT? What?
What's an MFG?
NFT. It's a digital piece of art that can be sold, basically.
Oh.
Even a tweet.
Something is like sex to me. I don't.
Once you've got the vaccine. Right.
Hug your family.
I'm just looking at his footwork. So his knees go in and his toes point in. It's a very interesting pose.
Okay.
So, yeah, that I can't do the screen. The screen share? Or someone? I wonder if I could do a live screen share.
We could do it with a computer, but our computers are loud, and it will make a really big fan sound, which is why we don't.
Hey, we've got Band of Bros has joined the live chat.
Excellent.
Outstanding. So if you don't know, I'll do a little plug here. I've started a new YouTube channel with myself and my best mate Dan here, and it's a tracking of our journey to become the best versions of ourselves possible, being the best men we could be for our families. So check it out. It's called The Band of Bros. Is a live chat right there. Okay, so that was I guess it was musical themed.
Yeah, so it really reminded me of Disney.
It really got you excited, Lillian, I'm sure, because you are a big fan of musicals, aren't you?
I do love musicals.
What's your favorite musical then?
Ooh, I think My Fair Lady.
Cats.
No. And then Sound of Music. But My Fair Lady I find really funny.
But wait a minute. When I think of musicals, I don't think of made-for-movie musicals.
It wasn't made for movies.
Okay, so the Sound of Music was
My Fair Lady.
Sound of Music was for movies, though, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so.
It came out on stage first and then made a movie?
I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe you guys can tell us. Let's see. You can handle that while I talk, because I'll get distracted.
Yeah.
So so favorite musical. So for me, yeah, definitely it would have to be My Fair Lady by a long shot. Not Chicago, not Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge.
Rouge.
So this came out on TikTok, and it is blatant propaganda.
I know.
Blatant.
It's so blatant.
Propaganda. Now, I'm not against propaganda as such. I think propaganda's gotten a bad rap. So I'm thinking of World War II posters that says Uncle Sam wants you. I'm thinking of Royal Navy posters with the guy with the mustache or whatever, just looking sternly, and it's like we need men. So that I'm thinking of soldiers and even celebrities on raising war bonds and talking about the war front and what the men are doing. And so this idea of propping up a narrative by the use of celebrity, by the use of press, by the use of print. I'm not necessarily...
Is that propaganda, though?
It is propaganda. So, like I said, propaganda has gotten a bad rap. It's almost like inherently negative.
Propaganda was only for something where you're advertising for the government to gain more power.
I don't know. That's just the way it's commonly talked about now. So let's look it up. Propaganda.
It's like to drive a narrative that's not necessarily real.
No. Let's see. That. How do I find the older?
The first definition doesn't fit what I'm saying.
Well,
it's
just Google.com. So hang on.
I'm gonna go to the Oxford one.
Here we go. So, the spreading of ideas, information, or rumor for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, a cause, or a person. Okay. So that's morally neutral. You see, the third definition. So the first definition was when it's capitalized. It's some papacy term. It's called a congregation of the Roman Curia having jurisdiction over missionary territory. So that's clearly. This is Merriam-Webster, by the way, since 1828.
So they hate Catholics? Is that what that was?
So then the third definition is ideas, facts, or allegations spread deliberately to further one's cause or to damage an opposing cause. So all it really is the utilization of storytelling to promote a narrative.
But clearly this one is promoting a narrative that
I know.
we don't agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But let's just be clear, right? So I'm not against propaganda as such, because propaganda can be used for good and it could be used for evil. So in this instance, I think it's an evil agenda. Mm-hmm. I think what springs to mind is, have you ever been persuaded to do something on account of a celebrity? promoting it?
No.
Do you remember the campaign Got Milk
Yeah.
in the U.S.?
I don't remember any of the celebrities in it, though. I
There's-
remember the cute kids with the milk
mustaches.
Yeah, that's it. It wasn't a celebrity thing for me.
But so people have done studies on the effect of that campaign.
Okay.
And that campaign told you nothing about the goodness of milk. It told you nothing about the qualities of milk. It just had celebrities drinking milk. And it's a success.
Okay.
It was a smashing success.
So they're riding on that kind of the backs of that.
I think
getting
so.
Ariana Grande.
I think
getting
so.
James Corden.
And that's why, your Lady Gagas, your etc., all of them.
There have been so many of these videos about.
They have.
We should.
Yeah.
Did we ever share that the one with the health safe seal video? Oh, maybe we should find that and share it, because that's another just blatant. Like, they're reading a script.
Oh yeah, I remember
look
that one.
Terrible. They
I
all
remember
look like
that
they're out of business.
But of course, what this does is, when I saw the Got Milk campaign, I mean, I was already a milk drinker, so it didn't really have a great impact on me. But I'm pretty sure there are people out there, personalities out there, I can name a couple, that as soon as a celebrity advocates something, they're going to do the opposite. They're like the George Costanzas of propaganda. Whatever the celebrities recommend, they're doing the opposite. So it's interesting that there's already a hardened group of individuals that will just not do what celebrities do.
Yeah.
But there is another group, I think, that are easily persuadable by celebrities. Can you think of any other campaign? So I know that when it's election time, they always roll out, okay, so-and-so wants Hillary to win.
Was it Cardi B who did the interview with Biden or something?
Oh, yeah.
And the nails. And
yeah.
asking the stupidest question.
The stupidest questions with the worst grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
it was embarrassing.
The thing is, I didn't even know who Cardi B was. The only reason why I knew her is because of the election. But anyway, so clearly it doesn't work for us.
So back to this. So what struck me, what stands out the most to me, is the absolute effeminacy of this Corden character.
Well, most musical theater
are like that.
Male characters have
Is that right?
Because it's just
not Sound of Music,
dance.
not
No, when there's dancing involved. When there's like choreographed dancing.
Not in the old days of Fred Astaire and
That's true.
There was very masculine dancing and masculine singing.
Okay, but it's that's long gone.
So you're saying the new age of musicals, when there are men, they're always effeminate.
Actually, you might be right, because Hugh Jackman danced in The Greatest Showman, and that was masculine.
That's
it wasn't
right. That's right.
effeminate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what struck me is his whole footwork was very sort of, it matched Ariana Grande's footwork. You know how women they're like you bow the knees in and you have the feet pointing in.
Yeah.
See, men, if you look at a picture of people standing side by side.
Okay, you're talking about the stance now.
Yeah, if you look at people and you don't see their face or their body and you just look at ankles and feet.
Okay.
You can almost always tell
who
are men and who are women.
Okay. Interesting.
The women have their toes pointing either forward or in. And men have them pointing out.
Okay.
Almost
I
always.
stand with an L shape. What is that?
If you were to stand forward to take a picture, that's the sort of Instagram pose of like one leg tippy-toed.
Right. That's like a model stance.
It's a pandemic hitting.
It's also a ballerina stance as well. It's like, I think it's like fourth position.
Oh yes, where the heels are
like
very
this.
close in. Oh, L. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what struck me is that this is all very soy, and estrogen pumped, and it goes to show again that when pressure is applied by propaganda, by government, by press,
it's just money. I think it's just money.
I'm not just talking about him, but today I was accosted by a staff member for not being diligent in wearing my mask outside in the shops, and it was a very moral accosting. Like,
Right.
how could you not protect people?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you wearing your mask? And I just simply politely said, you know that it's illegal for you to ask me why I'm not wearing a mask and what my exception is, and to demand proof. And then they just quickly, okay, well, just know that I'm wearing a mask for you. So there's
And that was just like a worker, or was that
that was
like
a worker. Yeah,
oh,
that was
okay.
a worker. And so it was a male worker. You see, so there's this whole idea that you attain an enhanced moral stature by conforming to the predominant narrative, and that is a characteristic of soy, basically, that you gauge what direction you're going to travel in on the basis of where everyone else is traveling. And God forbid you need to stand against the direction of travel of the majority of people. And I've been thinking about this for a while. There's been, I think I mentioned it to you yesterday, that Scott Adams, the big cartoonist for Dilbert, he was an early advocate of masks. And he said all the studies, all the experts, everyone that should know about these things are recommending that masks should be worn.
Which is not true.
And then later on, after the first lockdown here, or sometime in early 2021, he changed his mind and said, look, it's obviously a farce now. We don't need to be wearing masks. And so this other guy, tough guy, who's a former champion Muay Thai fighter and erstwhile seedy character, however, he called out Scott Adams on Twitter and added him and said, you just admit that you were a coward and that you're just following the trends now. That there's a greater majority of people now saying that masks are not needed, and you just feel comfortable now to stand with them. But if it came to standing on your own, you can't. And he went on to say, this guy who called out Scott Adams, that this is what happens when you leave the thinking to cowards. That they might be as brilliant, have the highest IQ possible, and come to logical conclusions, but if they are cowardly, when the pressure is on, they will not stay true to their convictions. And what's also come out is that a lot of the treatments that Trump was advocating when COVID came out, with hydrochloroquine and et cetera,
hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin.
Yep, the doctors are now coming out and admitting that actually those are good treatments, and I was biased against the treatment because I hated Trump. Because it would be embarrassing or politically incorrect or damaging to their career to agree with Trump. And so this is the thing, is that whenever something is in conflict with your convictions, if you are a coward, then you will buckle. And so it goes to show that in a society that has lost the heritage of teaching men to fight and teaching men to be physically robust, and to put their prowess to the test. If you don't test yourself repeatedly, physically, then how, when the test comes for your convictions, and that there will be moral consequences if you stand up to your convictions, if you've never had your physicality tested, then you will buckle. The chances are high that you will buckle. So this whole COVID business is a large-scale experiment that has conclusively shown that in a society of high soy and high estrogen and low male or toxic masculinity, that convictions will be thrown out the window. That's my feedback on
I did want to mention too, and you can unlock this one. So what you were just talking about reminded me of the trilogy or series of films or books, the Divergent series, because I don't know if you remember the film, but there are different factions in Divergent. And so there's like the one that they're really brave and they're very masculine, I would say, even though our main character female is in that group. But but anyway, that group is all about like they physically run onto the train and latch on to get home every day. Like they're really active, they're masculine, they fight, they're trained to fight. And then there's the like the nerds, the ones who are really smart. Right?
Yeah.
And they're the ones who then want to pair up with the Justice
League.
And they decide they want to just take over and not, they want to kick out, like, they basically want to rule, which is really interesting because I feel like we've gotten into that state in the UK where we're kind of ruled by the group of nerds like that are sitting behind computers or desks and just like creating calculations and etc. But they're not the ones on the ground. They're not the ones that would be sent off to battle or anything like that. So I feel like that they're missing that element of, are you willing to fight? Are you willing to stand? Are you willing to fight someone physically over your stance? Yeah. And I think they wouldn't, but because they don't have to, they just continue to give out all of these fines and these arrests and these guidelines and these whatever lockdown measures.
Yeah.
Behind, what do they call it? Behind keyboard warriors or whatever.
Yeah. Karens.
It's totally like that right now, and I don't know if there's a way to fix it. But
but I like seeing these pictures of black and white pictures, like 20s and 30s, and you have kids 4 or 5 years old, and they've in a sand pit, they've put up some rope in a ring, and they've got boxing gloves, and they're just going at each other.
Yeah.
Can you imagine parents today allowing their 4 or 5-year-old to put hands up against each other?
That's what Mike Rowe was saying when he grew up in the Boy Scouts. They had a sand pit. They had like a boxing ring. Yeah. And they said, you settle your matters over there. And that was just normal. And that every week kids would go home with like a split lip or a bruised face, and parents were fine with it.
Here's the usual groupthink on masks. LFC Keith K says, mask protection protects others more than yourself. So if everyone wears them, we are all protected. But explain to me, what in your conspiracy world brain does this mean? Do you want to answer that?
First of all, just because we don't wear masks, are we conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Anyway, the reason is because that the science has shown that it has very little protection for anybody, for yourself or other people. So what this person is churning out is just what they're being told. Yeah. But the science and the research have shown, in fact, that I think it was Denmark, very early on, they came out with a study that said, actually, masks are not very effective. Sorry. Yeah. But they delayed the release of their report for like weeks because they were worried about the...
No, I thought there was, in the early days, there was a mask shortage. So they were all putting out messages that says you don't need masks.
Yeah. Save them for the frontline workers. Yeah.
So then as soon as there was enough toilet paper masks coming out of India or China.
According to Laura Dodsworth, as soon as they realized that they can control the fear of the population by enforcing masks, because when you wear one, you physically feel on your body this restraint, that you're wearing a symbol of submission. And then also visually for other people to see, you can signal into this submission. You can say,
you're signaling submission.
You are. And so it just creates, it allows people to be controlled. It allows them to be in a fearful state where they will happily abide by these guidelines that are nonsensical.
So let's address the classic rebuttal, which is, well, clearly surgeons wear masks in theater.
Mm-hmm. They're not operating on some airborne virus, okay?
Who's they?
The surgeon. They're protecting themselves from splats and splots, whatever.
They're protecting themselves, or are they protecting the open wound?
And they're protecting the open wound, yes. Okay. But at the same time, they came out with that study that said that, COVID is in the air. It's a virus. It's an aerosol virus. And therefore... all of the whole masks protect droplets and all that.
Right.
People are like, doesn't matter anymore, does
But
it?
I mean, even the makeshift masks, they don't.
There's no
stop the
regulation
droplets.
on what kind of mask you have to wear. People
I think
wear
my viewpoint is basically if you know you have it because you've had symptoms. So can we discuss whether you transmit if you're symptomatic, and if you're not symptomatic, you don't transmit? Is that sort of?
So first of all, I think we should say that we are not medical professionals, and we're not putting forward any sort of, information that you can count on us, and we're not trying to sway anyone. But I think what we want to do is we want to voice the things that people aren't hearing. I feel like just people aren't hearing it, and to just think about it a little bit.
So I think clearly, if you test positive, if you have symptoms, then stay away
home.
from people, wearing a mask if there's an open wound somewhere,
and get help if you need it.
Yeah, but to festoon a mask on every member of society, on the slight chance that they might have it, to guard against a less than 1% mortality rate illness, is evidently an exercise in authoritarianism.
There's also an increased risk of you getting an infection because you're trapping bacteria on your face and you're breathing in lower oxygen levels from the mask. So there's going to be problems with that. Are you reading a comment?
So Nathan Poff says, surgeons in Sweden now have the option to wear a mask in the OR because they found the scientific data did not support requiring one, FYI. So surgeons in Sweden can opt out of wearing a mask in operating room.
There you go.
What do people say to that?
It just goes to show you that the level of fear is so high in people
that Nate Poff,
they are willing.
For the win. My man.
They are willing to. Oh God. They're willing to do anything that they're being told because everyone wants to get out of lockdown, of course. And if the government is saying, in order to get out of lockdown, you have to do this and this and this, they'll comply. But I love Zuby's tweet. He said, you cannot comply your way out of a tyrannical government. There's just no way.
Okay, next story then is similar, somewhat, apparently not related, but I think the theme is still on it. So the headline is, this is from LBC. Is it Enid or Enid?
Enid.
Enid Blyton's work labeled racist and xenophobic in blue plaque rewrite. A rewrite of Enid Blyton's blue plaque by English Heritage has highlighted criticism for, quote, racism, xenophobia, and lack of literary merit, end quote, in her books. The author, best known for children's books The Famous Five and The Secret Seven, has a blue plaque commemorating her former home in Kensington upon Thames, where it is believed she was inspired to begin storytelling. But the charity, in an audit of its plaque descriptions on its website, has added a section to highlight the controversies the author faced over her work. It reads, quote, Blyton's work has been criticized during her lifetime and after for its racism, xenophobia, and lack of literary merit. A 1966 Guardian article, while that mighty institution of truth and beauty, article noted the racism of the little black doll, in which the doll of the title, Sambo, is only accepted by his owner once his ugly black face is washed clean by rain. English Heritage Curator-Director Anna Avis said, quote, we have no plans whatsoever to remove any of our London blue plaques. On our website, we are providing more information for each blue plaque so that people can find out more about the person behind the plaque, end quote. Miss Blyton faced criticism throughout her career for controversial portrayals of non-white or non-British characters in some of her books. In 1960, Macmillan Cancer Support rejected her manuscript for the book The Mystery That Never Was in 1960 because of alleged xenophobic content. It said the book displayed a, quote, faint but unattractive touch of old-fashioned xenophobia against those who do not speak English. Most recently, the Royal Mint rejected a commemorative Enid Blyton 50p coin, with the money producer labeling her a, quote, racist, sexist, homophobe, and not a very well-regarded writer. But English Heritage added in its description, others have argued that while these charges can't be dismissed, her work still played a vital role in encouraging a generation of children to read. End quote. In the wake of the Black Lives Matter protests following the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in the U.S., the charity has set out to include information on figures, quote, whose actions are contested or seen today as negative, end quote. English Heritage confirmed it has no plans whatsoever to remove any blue plaques and will continue to update our website so that we can tell more of the story behind each plaque and each person.
So there's a really good comment right here by MD. Enid Blyton's work inspires and is loved by children. That's why her work is targeted. They want children learning about sexuality, not maintaining their innocence and imagination.
Interesting. So what do you have to say about her? What do you know about her?
I don't know anything about her except the fact that when we were looking for books for our daughter to read, that we wanted to find books that weren't woke, to be honest. It's like modern children's literature is just full of wokeness, and it's sickening, and it's poor literary as well. Like when you read it, you're like, a 3-year-old can read this. It's so basic. And our daughter's reading at an 11-year-old level already. So she's like reading The Hobbit and stuff like that. But at the same time,
she's reading Dostoevsky right now. Crime and Punishment.
But at the same time,
her sleep.
I feel like it has some nice stories in there, and I just love it. So
which reminds me, my best friend has started a company called Burst, and it is about children's books. So here's a little shameless plug. He has not paid me for this. I'm doing this out of my pure kindness.
See if you can show the screen or something.
We started the company to empower families with fresh and wholesome children's stories and creative ways to save parents time.
This is Burst, B-U-R-S-T.
Find it on Kickstarter.
But how are we supposed to do that? Become experts in children's literature? What if instead of having to find the perfect stories, they came to you? We deliver our books monthly right to your door so your family can spend more time reading together.
Is it available in the UK?
If we can find one way to make
Really?
parenting easier, mission accomplished. Good stories are hard to come by. Help your kids discover inspiring stories, grow their character, and develop their imagination. Our stories are filled with lively characters that embody universal values like love, honor, and charity. Take your kids on an adventure. Each book is filled with creativity and excitement to inspire the future dreamer inside. As parents ourselves, we know how hard it is to find engaging entertainment that will build up a child's imagination. Uplifting children's stories should be available to every family, especially at our busiest moments. Back us on Kickstarter to begin this journey together and revolutionize the world of children's media, one family at a time.
There you have it. So the company is called Burst, and you can find and watch that video and support it on Kickstarter. So that's Kickstarter.com, and you go and search for Burst.
So the whole why behind it is we as parents, and I'm sure you guys know, it's really difficult to find good children's literature. If you want to find bad literature, you go to the public library. That's
bad literature?
Yeah, that's seriously. Every time I went to the library to find
here in the
books, even in the U.S.,
right,
they're just full of woke things and CRT and then the reading level's low. But so anyway, and reading shouldn't just be about just a fun little story, a fun little character. It should be about teaching your children virtue, teaching them how to build their character, and our friend here, who the creator of Burst, has found old classic stories from hundreds of years of stories.
Yeah, the ones that have stood the test of time, they've repurposed them and re-illustrated them.
Yeah, so he's supporting current illustrators to re-illustrate these books, then it's like a free, but a monthly
subscription service where you get a monthly delivery of books.
Yeah, so you can trust them because we trust them.
So back to the topic then. So we've bought Blyton books for our daughter.
Yeah.
And she seems to enjoy them. I remember the first one that she read was a bit scary for her. There was like a wolf or something.
Yeah, in the night.
In the night
dark.
and they were camping, but the boys were brave or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm of the mind that whenever it comes out, like when it came out, we did it at the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, where the National Trust was wondering what they were going to do about properties that had a heritage in slavery, whether they were going to discontinue tours in them or make make plaques that clearly illustrate the evils, etc. Whenever these sorts of things happen, I'm like, I'm there. I'm gonna get that, or I'm gonna buy that, or I'm gonna partake of that because it's probably good.
Yeah, exactly. Julie Peters asks, has she read Little Women yet? And the answer is yes, and that's thanks to you guys. One of our subscribers bought some of the books on our Amazon wish list, and
the story is better than the modern movie, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because the modern movie is a bit, the one starring Winona Ryder.
Oh yeah,
that's a bit feminist.
A little bit, yeah.
I would suggest.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think this is yet again these institutions, these old institutions, the Blue Plaque Institution. I don't know how old it is, but whether it be National Trust or Blue Plaque, all these institutions are having a severe case of amnesia and wanting to forget English history or British history because it is just not acceptable in today's climate. And that's a shame because, again, we've lost the ability. So all it takes is for a man to stand up and say, these histories, the history of Winston Churchill or the history of the Cecil Rhodes is a checkered history. There's no perfect man out there. But we honor them for the great things that they did, in spite of the evils that they committed. Because after all humans have an admixture of good and evil. Mm-hmm. And so to destroy someone's history on account of past sins is an act of conquest, really is what it is. It's an act of a new wing of ideology that wants to conquer a people. And the first step in conquering a people is destroying their history. What was the first thing that Mao Zedong did in mainland China?
Burnt books.
Burnt the history
literature, books. Artwork. He was really trying to reshape the culture. And then that's when they created the simplified form
of
the written Chinese.
Yeah. So this all has echoes of totalitarianism and of a conquest. So I would be very much on guard and do advise you to stand your ground. Okay, my last story is, let's have a look. It is...
Oh, Julie Peters says, what Katie did. Is that the one with the art? What Katie did. That sounds familiar. Another childhood favorite, American classics.
This is a story out of the BBC. Its title says, MPs, octopuses feel pain and need legal protection. When you think of an octopus or lobster, what comes to mind? Seafood or intelligent marine life?
Seafood.
A group of conservative... It's the Tories. It's the Tories, the Tories, the Tories, the Tories, the Tories.
Excuse me, let me finish my sentence. The Tories.
A group of conservative MPs think it's the latter that is intelligent marine life and argue they should be included in a law to protect animals. The Animal Welfare Bill recognizes animal sentience, which is the capacity of animals to have feelings, including pain and suffering. It currently says fish and other vertebrates which feel pain should be protected as much as possible. Animals like lobsters and octopuses are not currently protected by the bill because, as invertebrates, their body is different to ours, so they aren't thought to have those complex feelings, says a report by the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation. Cough. The report says arguments against recognizing these species focuses on physical differences between these animals and humans. But this fails to understand what it means for an animal to have feelings. It says those species, quote, undoubtedly experience the world in extremely different ways to ourselves. But what matters is whether they feel pleasure and pain. Quote, animals have helped us quite a lot, so we should return the favor and help them, marine biologist Emily Sullivan tells Radio 1 Newsbeat. The 25-year-old manages the research aquarium at the Marine Biological Association, which means she's worked with lots of invertebrates such as octopus, lobster, crabs, crayfish, and cuttlefish. She feels they should be recognized in the bill, which is currently in the House of Lords. There are already regulations around using animals in scientific research, including octopus and squid, though not all species. Quote, the aim of that is to minimize pain, stress, and suffering in research, Emily says. I personally do not think they can recognize and feel pain, so should be protected more. I personally do think they can recognize and feel pain, so should be protected more, end quote. Having interacted with lots of these animals, Emily feels they are self-aware and understand what's around them. Quote, it definitely varies between species, and it's not the same level for all of them. But for example, cuttlefish related to octopus are very intelligent, she says. The ones we have here, when you walk past their tank, they come up and have a look, see what you're doing, and definitely respond. You can see them watching you, end quote. Emily feels it's clear when they feel pain or suffering because their behavior changes a lot. Quote, they become quite lethargic and their appetite changes. That's true for a lot of the animals, including crabs and lobsters. Emily says including them in the bill will have a big impact on the animals themselves because, quote, they aren't really protected or regulated much. The report found the UK fishing fleet lands more than 420 million of species such as squid, octopus, crabs, and lobsters each year and says, quote, with so many individuals at stake, it is important to be cautious even if there's not complete certainty these animals are sentient. The new animal welfare legislation will mean any new government policy will have to take into account that vertebrate animals can experience feelings, including pain and joy. That will be decided by a committee made up of animal experts from within the field. A spokesman from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs told Newsbeat the UK, quote, was proud to have some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world, end quote. We are fully committed to strengthening them further to ensure all animals avoid any unnecessary pain, distress, or suffering, end quote. She added there's already a review of the feelings of species such as octopus, cuttlefish, and squid, and the government will carefully consider the results of this.
Good comment by MD says they will be advocating for AI rights soon. I can feel.
So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are the first thing I always think about is abortion because
I knew you were going there.
Babies in the womb, fetuses can feel pain. They are sentient beings. They also have a soul. So I don't know if this 25-year-old woman has ever had any abortions, but she seems to think that if octopuses can feel, then maybe the unborn shouldn't be killed in the womb.
Yeah. We have a very insightful comment from the Phantom Pain, aptly named. He says, OLM, octopus lives matter. I think there are several things that struck me about this article. I think the first thing I want to say is, who cares what a 25-year-old has to say? I remember when I was 25, and I didn't know squat. I mean, I thought I knew a lot, but in terms of running things and giving wisdom and guidance to people and society, I didn't know squat. I don't know about what you feel about at 25.
25, we were married for about a year.
A year.
I didn't know anything either.
Let's see, 25. I had just left Stanford, and I thought I was the big man with the top flight degrees and knew everything, but I made a mess of my life.
And if I met you then, I would have run away.
Probably, but I was arrested for driving on a suspended license. I was not very wise. So listening to a 25-year-old is a bit outlandish. First comment. Second comment, I noticed that a lot of her comments were, I feel.
Right.
I tried to emphasize that if you
Yes.
didn't notice. But I feel like this. And that sort of language, I think is most common amongst women, isn't that?
Yeah, but not just that. She should be a sort of scientist, right? If she's in
Yeah.
marine biology. So it shouldn't
Yeah.
be, I feel. It should be,
Yeah.
the study has shown that they react this way, et cetera, and that we attribute to a feeling or to sensing pain.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She was just like, I feel this.
Yeah,
I feel
I think-
that. I think they can see me.
Yeah, and they become lethargic, and you could tell that they're
You know
excited
who else
when you
becomes
walk
lethargic? People in lockdown.
by. Yes.
So what is the government doing to the poor people in lockdown?
Who are feeling lethargic and feeling pain. So, and then the next thing, which was interesting, is the whole premise, the basis of the whole article and viewpoint is that if an entity feels pain, then we are morally obligated to do everything we can
To take the pain away.
to take the pain away.
To
and
not
so-
inflict pain.
No, not just to not inflict pain. So to make sure that that entity is experiencing as little pain as possible, logically. So my mind started wandering, okay, when are we going to make the animal kingdom vegan? When are we going to stop lions from hunting prey? When are we going to stop eagles from hunting prey, bears
And you
from
can't
hunting prey?
feed the sea lions
Whales.
fish, right?
Yeah,
In the zoo. You can't keep anyone in zoos.
all carnivores. Where is the initiative to make all carnivores vegan? That's what I'm wondering. So that and then the further thing I was wondering is this idea that we must act on the basis of pain is again peak soy. It's peak soy. We
And-
must avoid pain at all costs.
See,
that is
a life without pain is very meaningless. Pain is used to tell you if your body is functioning properly. Pain is an indicator.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, so many people live with pain, and they can live triumphantly with pain. You don't. Just because you have pain doesn't mean that you just then roll over and want to die. So we think we've talked about this before in terms of people nowadays seem to just live to be pain-free.
Yeah.
But people back then, they lived for something else, that a greater purpose. You know, their lives had a mission and a focus, and it wasn't just a pain-free life.
the holy grail of lives being a life without pain is an absurdity.
It is.
It's an absurdity, Jordan Peterson says that pain is the given in life. Suffering is the given.
So do the Buddhists.
Is the universal given
That
of
living
life.
is pain.
And the scriptures say as much as well, that in this fallen state as we are, suffering is the universal inheritance that we receive from Adam. And so it's a utopian delusion to think that we can usher in an age without pain. And usually them who try to persuade and lull us into agreeing to things on account of the promise of a painless life, it's usually manipulation for power is what it is. It's a delusion that leads to far worse pain in actual fact. The avoidance of all pain leads to worse pain than you would experience if you just lived life towards good ends.
And sorry to bring this back to COVID, but the fact that we've shut down entire economies to avoid this 1%, 5% death rate, and then you've got all these people that now suffering more with depression, suicidal attempts, loneliness. dying alone, cancer untreated. There are so many other elements that people are now having to suffer because they're trying to avoid the other thing, this dying from COVID over here. But there's just so many other ramifications.
Yeah, so we could easily say, what are we to do with all these people who are experiencing pain on account of lockdown? Whose pain is more worth avoiding? The pain of the 1% who have died from COVID, or the pain of the people who are having cancers uncaught, the pain of people who aren't getting treatments or preventative,
and domestic abuse and violence,
or the pain of the people who have had businesses completely destroyed,
yeah, their livelihoods taken away,
who have gone unemployed. So the use of pain as the measuring stick by which we govern is an absurdity.
It's subjective too. Yes.
Yeah. It's anti-mind, anti-reason, and it again shows the post-Christian state of the West, because nowhere in our Christian roots in the West have we ever stated we're going to base our legal constructs on the basis of pain, on the basis of suffering.
Right. So on the
of
inverse,
avoiding suffering.
Right. So the opposite of avoiding suffering, really, what we as Christians believe is that our life is lived to a goal of being holy, of doing right before God, and doing right to your neighbor, and obviously under God. So all of these the positive. I just want to I guess turn our mind away from the negative. The instead of saying don't do that, I want to just say do this instead. And instead of saying, oh, we're going to avoid pain as our life goal, we are instead going to try and live holy and righteous. And I think that is a very, very difficult task, but it also means that you face pain then. And in that situation, you can face it and overcome it.
Yeah, the Christian answer to suffering is the only answer that makes sense. It says suffering is the universal condition of now, but in the now, as you walk closely to the Father in heaven and obey His way, then the suffering will be both beneficial to you and will be mitigated. It won't be a life without suffering this side of the end, but it'll be a life in which you see the suffering, you lean into it, and you overcome it.
Like the example is just the pruning of a tree, right?
Yeah.
It's painful, I guess, to get pruned, to get things cut off of you.
Yeah.
But then it's in order for you to grow better and produce more fruit, spiritual fruit.
It's the age-old dictum that seems to be unacceptable as no pain, no gain.
And also with children, raising children, right? They're not going to want to. I don't know. Children, what were you saying?
I was saying that, yeah, they if you take TV away from them or you put them on a naughty step,
yeah,
if they experience any suffering, it's so taboo.
And yet you see those parents. I'm sure you have seen those parents out in shopping or something, and their kid is just crying, throwing a tantrum, and the mother's just there trying to feed them snacks to get them to stop. Yeah. That child is not going to learn self-control.
Yeah.
Because all the parent has been doing their entire life is just trying to mitigate pain, mitigate discomfort, and that is really, truly harming the child. So children need to learn how to overcome pain and also direct their desires in the proper direction.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means, suffering, TV.
Yeah, and so once again to the theme of the podcast, which is where are the men of conviction who are willing to endure pain and suffering on account of their convictions. If you live by the motto avoid pain at all cost, then your convictions will be sacrificed pretty quickly. if you have any. And so you will stand by as literature from the past is burned because it doesn't abide by the narrative. You will stand by as you're required to wear masks nonsensically or even take a vaccine nonsensically. You will stand by as worship is throttled and canceled and stopped. You will stand by if octopuses are given more privileges than unborn babies. And so that's what it all boils down to is, do we have the courage of our convictions, or are we too beholden to the comfortable life and to the life of little pain? And that's what here we go, the idiots who just want to do ad hominems. Christianity is so stupid. Get lost, bud. But yeah, so that's the question. And how does the West return to raising their boys to be men who have the courage of their convictions? Fatherlessness is one of the scourges of the West. So not only are adult men of our generation some of the least fathered men in existence, so then they're going to father children that are even less fathered, if you will, because it's like a generational curse. And that's why I think there's going to be a breaking point in the West, and then it's going to need to be reborn in some way. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop this decline. But once again, we do not store our treasures here on earth, and we do not have our hope in republics and in media empires and in narratives. We have our hope in heaven, and that is ultimately victorious. And so we do not fret, and we keep hope. And I know our brothers and sisters in the global South are carrying the torch, and that is very inspiring. So that is all for the stories that we have today. Any final, shall we do a quick AMA for, let's do 5 minutes AMA.
Ask me anything.
Ask me anything from the YouTube crowd. 5 minutes as we wait for our first questions. Say goodbye. Go ahead.
Let's say goodbye to our podcast listeners. So Thank you guys, podcast listeners, for listening. Be sure you can email us at thepostmodernfamily@gmail.com if you wanted to share your thoughts. Or
we're happy to read your emails. Live on air.
If they're fantastic emails, we will read them. And yeah, find us on YouTube, Postmod Pod. It's very small right now. I think we have about 62 subscribers.
Get on over there on Postmod Pod and subscribe. All 75 of you in the live chat, go do that right now.
You should probably drop the link at some point.
Yeah, I should. Here we go. As I do that, any questions? Is this the closing now?
Yeah, thanks so much for listening, podcast listeners.
And do leave a 5-star review. Not a 4-star, not a 3-star, not a 2-star, not a 1-star, but a 5-star review. Much appreciated. Cheers.
Bye.
Postmod Pod. There it is. Let me share. Copy link.
We don't have a neat little URL yet because it's very new. So I think once we hit, 1,000 subscribers, then we can choose a custom URL or something. So anyway, you guys can click on that link, head on over there, and subscribe. And any questions so far?
Okay, so we are opening the telephone lines for any questions.
This is like Alex Belfield, because he has a live radio thing. He says Wednesdays and Sundays.
This is Dr. Fraser Crane, and I'm listening.
Seattle.
I'm listening, Seattle.
Seattle, I'm listening.
First question is from Lee Smith. Says, America is about to fall to communism, yes or no? I wouldn't say about. I would say we're probably maybe 50 to 100 years. It'll be very socialistic.
Well, I think they're mentioning Kamala. Because once Biden is deemed unfit, Kamala's going to take over. And then it might be.
Fred Flintstone very aptly named, says, "Is that painting above your mantle a Tadoma?"
It's a Chiseri.
Did
Antonio
you hear it?
Chiseri.
The meatball and spaghetti. It's Ecce Homo.
Yes. Behold the man.
Behold the man. Still waiting on any questions. What strikes you the most about this podcast experience?
Me?
Yes.
I just enjoy talking about the current day issues with you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Here we go. Do you think, the Phantom Pain says, do you think the vaccine is the mark of the foundations of the mark?
The vaccine, not so much, but maybe the vaccine passport. Maybe the digital passport.
Yeah, if there's a digital passport, then definitely.
Yeah,
but I'm not all about reading into the signs of the apocalypse.
But I don't think that there's necessarily something in the vaccine. You know how people are doing like the magnet test? I don't know what that's about.
I don't know.
I don't know if there's anything in it that is the mark. But
Ginny B asks, Felipe, when did you find Christianity? I would say I didn't find it; it found me, and that was 12 years ago. 12 years ago, I was. I'm giving my age away, but I'm a man, so it doesn't matter. 29. I was 29, 28, around that time frame.
And he was like a raving atheist
I was
before then.
a zealous.
He was an objectivist.
Full throttle.
Loved Ayn Rand.
Atheist.
He would battle Christians on forums and tear them down.
Yeah, so I was pretty intense atheist. As for me, I like hearing my own voice in my ear.
That's what you like about the podcast?
No, I'm just kidding.
Love the sound of my own
Disaster.
voice.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. No, that's not a question. That's a comment. I do like the quality of the sound. The mics are quite nice, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Maybe I should do some more singing into them, but I don't have time.
Follow-up comment, Ginny B says, I'll admit that I was raised Catholic. However, I am agnostic now, but enjoy listening to you both. I prefer an agnostic over an atheist any day. At least an agnostic is honest in saying they don't know. Let's see.
What tipped you over? Or is there any piece of literature? I guess just the Bible.
No, I think as a proud atheist who was belligerent, I think an event had to happen for me to intellectually have permission to consider Christianity. I think prior to that event, I would bring to bear all the intellectual canons I could to destroy the possibility of truth in Christianity.
So it's
I was
really
very
just
biased.
the quickening of the heart, of the spirit.
Yeah, I think so. But then once that brokenness occurred, then there are definitely good books that give the intellectual grounding of the faith. Let's see here. What Chris Lawley says, what you think if Jesus appeared today?
It would be the end.
I would say, let's get out of here, bud.
Persevered.
Let's get out of here right now. Okay. Hartwell says, I like hearing your voice as well, Felipe. Thank you, Carl. I won't take that in a homoerotic sense. Much obliged.
Do you think that question was regarding if the first time Jesus appeared on earth was now?
No, I don't think so. Okay. David Payne says, should we as Christians be having more kids? That is a resounding yes.
Yeah.
We have the...
Get off that Satan drug contraception stuff.
We have the command since Noah to multiply.
Be fruitful and multiply.
And multiply means more than two.
Minimally replace yourself.
No, not minimally. If you just do replacement, that's not multiplying.
That's not multiplying.
No, that's not multiplying.
So then minimum 3.
Two
that's
times,
not multiplied.
Yeah, that's right. Minimum 3.
Well, 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 6. Wait.
Let's see. Leo T, what's your opinion of Mormons and demonionism?
I don't know what Dominionism?
Dominionism? Dominionism.
Dominionism.
What's dominionism?
I forget. There's something about like the more children you have, the more holy you are, or something.
Maybe Leo T, you can explain what dominionism
I think Mormons
is.
think that too, about the more children they have, the more.
I think Mormonism is a heresy. That's my opinion. I don't think they believe in the real Jesus. They think he's a creature, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, I've also read some of the Book of Mormon, and it was very entertaining. It's not anything like the Bible. It's one of the greatest
work of fiction I've ever
read.
Lee Smith asked a very important question: the Earth, spherical or flat?
Spherical. Sorry, I'm not flat Earth. I just can't. You'd have to be a big conspiracy theorist to believe in flat Earth. That everyone's gonna try and fake the pictures and.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll give it 2 more minutes. Last questions. Okay, Julie Peters says Dominionism. The church will fix the world and then Jesus will return. So we have to spread Christianity. I don't agree that's biblical. I agree that I don't think that's biblical. Okay. Okay, Leo T though says it's the biblical law being made the law of the land.
I see what they mean, because there was some verse in the Bible where it says that Jesus won't return until all have heard the gospel, something like that. So then that's why the missionaries were like, oh, we got to reach every single tribe, or else Jesus won't return. That's the thinking.
I think it's premised on the idea that man can of his own will usher in the return of Jesus.
Something like that, yeah.
So that we must constitute X, Y, and Z so that we usher in Jesus' return. And I don't think that's the way it works.
The verse that says that he will come back like a thief in the night just shows that you won't know. And in fact, Jesus even said he didn't know.
Ryan Carabin says, do you believe communist China is headed for inevitable conflict with the West? It's already in conflict with the West, so yes.
Conflict, or have they bought the West? I mean, it seems like they're working together with the West now.
They've purchased the West.
They did.
Fred Flizzo asks, were you raised a Catholic, Felipe? What denomination are you now? I was not raised a Catholic. I was raised an atheist. And what denomination am I? I'm a proud prayer book Anglican. Not the current Church of England, Anglicanism, which is a total heresy. But prayer book Anglicanism, 39 articles, believe in the Bible.
1662.
Yes. And I think that's it. We'll call it now, unless one final question arises.
No one cares about how I became a Christian, apparently.
Because they're thinking she's not a Christian. Okay. Well, last question here. It is a very important one.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Did men walk on the moon?
I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure. I'd like to believe so.
Yeah.
And I like Louis Armstrong. I like Edwin
Louis
Aldrin.
Armstrong. Louis Armstrong.
Sorry, Neil Armstrong.
I like his trumpet playing. It's so good. Oh.
He's good too. But I like Neil Armstrong. I like Edwin Aldrin.
And I said to myself, what a wonderful world.
Do you think that men have walked on the moon?
Nate.
Is he there?
He's there. What a wonderful world.
Well, what's your answer?
Of course men landed on the moon.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Sorry, the aerospace engineer guy
I've seen the rockets. I've seen the footage.
You've been inside this
I've seen the space shuttle. It's not a plane. Just stop talking before you.
Wait, you were in a plane that showed you zero gravity.
Yeah, that too. But I've also been in the space shuttle orbiters.
Oh, yeah.
Not in space, though.
You're not an astronaut?
Okay, so they want to hear Golgotha. Whoa, what a cool name.
I don't know that one, actually.
Wants to know how you became a Christian. Go.
Me?
Yeah, the 2-minute story. They all felt guilty that they didn't ask you, so now these are all charity questions.
Well,
pity questions.
My mom did bring me to church growing up. My dad is an atheist. and hated Christianity. So it took me until I was 19 to become a Christian. And it's the same thing. It was just, actually, it was quite practical. My pastor just said, what's preventing you from becoming a Christian? I said, there are too many questions that aren't answered. And he said, what are they? So then I asked them, and he answered them. And that was it.
That was it.
He's like, is there anything else holding you back? No. That was it.
That's it, folks. Well, it's been a lively and entertaining evening. By the way, what's the score? England, Scotland. What's the score? Come on, guys, tell me.
How would we watch this program? Do you have
this
to have
program? You mean the game?
The game, yeah.
How would we watch this TV program?
Do you have to have the license?
Oh, 0-0. Thanks, guys. But I need to know, how do I watch this sitcom?
How do I get on there?
All right, guys. Have a good night.
It's
been a pleasure. What's football? Is that the one with helmets? Go turn it off. You want to go turn it off?
All right.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.